Hello students, welcome to AskPrep. My name is Sakshi and we are going to start a new series with one video, one chapter. We are trying to wind up the entire chapter in just one video for all your last minute needs and everything. But if you wish to join our batches with the detailed studies and all, you can always reach out to us through the comment section. So we are going to start with the lesson number 1, that is the diversity of living beings. So let's get started. So what does the word diversity means? Diversity का मतलब है variety, the variety of living organism. When it comes to biodiversity, it means the variety of living organisms around us and everywhere on the earth. It starts from microscopic microorganism to the large gigantic animals or the plants or so on. ठीक है? So the entire variety, छोटे से छोटा और बड़े से बड़ा, right? And irrespective of the places वो जहाँ भी रहते हैं, maybe water, hills, mountains, deserts, Arctic regions and so on. So जहाँ भी वो present है, it depends on that. So this is what we are going to talk about in this chapter, understanding the vast variety of all the life forms that exist on the earth. So अब इतनी सारी varieties हैं, उनको कैसे categorize किया जाता है? So all the ecosystems that are existing together on the earth, so how are they categorized? So they are categorized in different ways. First of all, let's talk about the genetic diversity. Let's take the examples of the dogs, right? So अब हमारे around there are variety of dogs, the breeds, the different breeds we see around us. Some are Labradors, some are golden retrievers, some are huskies, some are Pomeranians, some are beagles, and so on, right? So there is a variety of dog breeds around us. So the basic difference is in their genetic characteristics, but they come from the same family. They show the same characteristic as any dog would do, but their appearance is different. Their fur or their hair texture or structure is different. That is only because of their genetic characteristics. Now talking about the species. अब ये तो हमने बात की सिर्फ एक species जैसे कि dog की, but उसके अंदर different variety है because of their diverse genes. Now let's talk about the birds. अब birds में भी variety of species are present. Some are woodpeckers, some are hawks, kites, crows, sparrows, pigeons, parrots, macaws and so on. So there is a huge variety. If we talk about a forest के अंदर they will show we will get to see a variety of birds around, right? That all depends on their different species. वहाँ पर the animal is the category that gross we are talking about are the birds, but they are various species to that, due to which they are diverse in their appearance and their nature, right? Next we are going to talk about the ecosystem. Ecosystem मतलब कि जहाँ वो रहते हैं, the natural habitat. Some are living in the deserts, xerophytic areas. Some are in the Arctic regions, extremely cold. अब वो उस temperature के लिए favorable हैं. जो xerophytic area वाले हैं वो उस temperature के लिए favorable है. Some variety of the fishes survive well in the fresh water, while the others they survive well in the sea or the salty water, right? So depending on that, on the ecosystem, the diverse range of organisms are seen on the earth. Now let's get to know more about the diversity importance. अब क्या जरूरत है इस diversity, हमें कैसे affect कर रहा है? Believe me or not, but every organism on the earth is directly or indirectly related to each other. They are affecting each other in some or the other ways. So इतनी diversity की जरूरत क्या है? It is to maintain the ecological balance. दोनों का ecological balance. अब ecological हमें पता है, if the number of plants are more, then herbivores are there to check its control, and the herbivores are more, then carnivores are there to check the control on that, and then lately the scavengers and the decomposers are there to treat the dead and decaying matter. So the ecological balance has to be maintained in the environment. That is why it is the diversity is there in the nature. Secondly, they provide resources like food, raw material and medicines to each other. As we have just discussed कि जो plants हैं वो herbivores के लिए food है, जो herbivores है वो carnivores के लिए food है, और eventually ये जो carnivores हैं वो scavengers and decomposers के लिए food है when they are no more alive, right? So it also help in the climate regulation and nutrient cycle. Nutrient cycle kaise? We know that there is an abundance of nitrogen in the air. We have studied in our junior classes कि nitrogen हमारे atmosphere में काफी amount में present है. But is it in the form that we can consume it? No, it isn't. Right? So all thanks to the rhizobium bacteria, if it doesn't fix the free nitrogen and convert it into a form that can be assimilated by the plants and eventually by the animals, then it wouldn't have been possible for the nitrogen to enter any of the living beings' body, right? इतनी nitrogen present है, but उसका use सिर्फ तभी है जब वो assimilate होके एक consumable form में आए, which is done by the rhizobium bacteria and of multiple other factors also. So that is how the maintaining of a nutrient cycle and helps in maintain the climatic regulation. We know that the transpiration is done by the plants. They release water and which eventually turns out to be the moisture, which increases the moisture content in the air, or just say clouds bante hain due to condensation and then it rains, right? We have studied in the water cycle bachpan mein. But this helps in maintaining the climate regulation also, which is directly or indirectly affecting us, right? Cultural and aesthetic value, we always know. Iska biggest example is the tribal people. Those who are living in the forest, they really know the value of these plants and animals, and they try to maintain the balance between these, right? So these plants and animals, they do have a cultural and aesthetic value to us. Now, the fact is over 1.7 million species have been discovered so far, and many more are yet to be identified. To organize them or to simplify them, to study and comparison is very difficult. अब आप imagine कीजिए कि आपने you are moving to a new house, right? So घर में हर तरह का सामान होता है. You need a table chair for your study, you need a bed for your relaxing, you need chairs and sofas if somebody comes in, you need the items in the kitchen. So but when you moved in, you have dumped the entire stuff in one room, right? So अब वो एक ही रूम में पूरा सामान पड़ा है. Then what do? You gradually take up the things and keep them at their respective places. जितने utensils हैं, बर्तन, कटोरी, चम्मच, glass and so on, they are to be kept in the kitchen. Why? Because हमें पता है कि जब भी हमें उसकी ज़रूरत होगी, so this is the area where I need to go and check on that, right? So we organize the things accordingly. Like you check your study cupboard, your study rack, or the shelf on the study table, right? So what do? You keep one books on one side, the notebooks on the other side, the school items that you have to take it to school, that you keep it on one side, and the rough items with the rough notebooks that you keep on one side. So this is how you organize, so that it is much more easier for you to know that okay, whenever I want something, this is the place I want to go and check on, right? So that is why इतने सारे organisms हैं. अब उनको ऐसे study करना, there has to be some way in which they can be classified. So number one is why do we classify is the answer to this question is number one, it becomes easier to study them, right? Number two, to clearly communicate among living things with the people despite language differences. So let's take the example of elephants here. right? Elephants are here in India also. They are present in Africa as well. So suppose there are two scientists, they want to check that the elephants in Africa, they have these characteristics, and elephant in India, they have these characteristics. So how would they talk about it? Obviously they should know the animal first of all, identification of the animal, कि okay, this animal is the one which we are talking about. जब तक उन्हें यही नहीं पता होगा कि किसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, तब how would they converse with each other? How would they get to know कि these are the characteristics that are to be seen and that are to be done or to be compared with each other, right? So to communicate with each other clearly and easily, despite these two animals, the variety of animals, they live like miles from each other, miles apart from each other, but still they show certain similar characteristics and a few dissimilar characteristics. So जब इसके बारे में पता लगाना है, so then you need to classify these organisms. And thirdly, to explore how various living things are related to each other. As we have discussed earlier also, all the living beings, they are related to each other. ठीक है? अब किसका impact किसके ऊपर कैसा आ रहा है? How do we know? Unless we classify them or organize them in a manner कि हम सब organisms के बारे में पढ़ सके और उनके बारे में जान सके, right? So that is why classification is important. Now, Carl Linnaeus. Who is the Carl Linnaeus? He was the one who took the effort, who made the effort to segregate them or to classify them into the certain levels. कुछ तो criteria उन्होंने सोचा कि इस criteria के basis पे we will organize the animals or the organisms, not only the animals but all the organisms, into a certain level so that they can be classified and they can be studied easily, right? So he developed a system of classification which was based on the classification and naming. Even today, all the scientists, they are accepting it, they are using it, and which is much more convenient for them. So his system has 7 levels. So these 7 levels constantly being refined by the scientists even today. So sometimes कुछ न कुछ नया आता रहता है, तो आज के scientists उसके साथ फिर काउंटर चेक करके उसको अपलोड अपग्रेडेशन करते रहते हैं. जैसे जैसे सॉफ्टवेयर अपडेट्स आते हैं, सो लाइकवाइज छोटा मोटा अपडेट इसमें भी चलता रहता है. नाउ व्हाट वर द बेसिस ऑफ दैट क्लासिफिकेशन? सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इज द सेल स्ट्रक्चर. प्रोकैरियोट्स हैं या यूकैरियोट्स हैं? प्रोकैरियोट्स क्या होते हैं? द सेल विद द प्रिमिटिव न्यूक्लियस. प्रिमिटिव टाइप का न्यूक्लियस है, नॉट वेरी वेल cell organelles are not very well defined. Nucleus is also primitive. No proper demarcation of the organelles is there. So that is the cellular level. Means the primitive organisms hai. Okay. As compared to the other one, eukaryotes. Eu means true. True karyotic means the nucleus. So there the animal started showing the true nucleus. Right. Then the body organization. यूनिसेल्युलर है एनिमल, जिसमें एक ही सेल परफॉर्म्स ऑल द मल्टीपल फंक्शंस, राइट? एंड और इट इज अ मल्टी सेल्युलर ऑर्गेनिज्म जिसके अंदर डिवीजन ऑफ लेबर है. सेल के अंदर डिफरेंट डिफरेंट ऑर्गेनेलीज हैं और वैसे ही डिफरेंट सेल्स हैं प्रेजेंट इन द ऑर्गेनिज्म टू परफॉर्म द वेरियस फंक्शन विच इज कॉल्ड द डिवीजन ऑफ लेबर, कि आप ये काम करो, हम ये काम करते हैं, राइट? सो लाइकवाइज. And thirdly, the mode of nutrition. किस टाइप का न्यूट्रिशन है? Whether it is a heterotrophic or the autotrophic. Auto means self, अपने आप, कि produce their own food by the process of photosynthesis, right? जो ये नहीं कर सकते, जो अपने आप produce अपना food नहीं कर सकते, they undergo heterotrophic, means dependent on other for their food. Now the mode of nutrition, is it asexual or is it sexual? So likewise, these 7 divisions levels are kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus and species, right? So this is how it has been classified into the various levels. Now binomial classification. Bi means two. Nomial is the word comes from name. So टू नेम क्लासिफिकेशन, मतलब जैसे हमारा नाम है, आपका नाम है, मेरा नाम है, सो वी आर नोन बाय आवर नेम्स, राइट. सो ऐसे ही किसी भी ऑर्गेनिज्म के को एक स्पेसिफिक नाम दिए जाते हैं डिपेंडिंग ऑन its characteristics. So by means it has two names, the first word and the second word. So अब ऐसे ही नहीं है कि कैसे लिखेंगे इसका नाम, it also has to be in a specific manner. So its format is the genus, which is written in the front, the first word, its first letter is always capital, right. और जो second है letter, जो second word है, that is a species, it is always written in lowercase. Like we have taken the example of Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens के अंदर आप देखिए H is always capital and OMO is always in the lowercase and sapiens is always in the lowercase. So this is a universally accepted naming system which is accepted everywhere in the world. So any scientist want to converse to the other one living in the other side of the world, they would just say कि this is the specific name of the organism I want to talk about, and then they would know कि okay ये organism इस genus का है और इस species का है, right. So that is how they converse with each other. That is how it is we get to know an organism. Now taxonomical hierarchy. Taxonomical hierarchy means the arranging it in the order, in the proper order, ki starting from the general to the very very specific, right. पहले general उसका characteristics देखा जाता है, then coming down to the very very specific, where it comes down to the specific organism. Like the example, let's have a look at this. We've taken the example of lion. So domain it belongs to is eukaryota. Eukaryota we just discussed. They are the true nucleus, right? These organisms, they have true nucleus. Okay. Ab kitne, there are millions of organisms that fall under this category. Okay. Then we went further. The kingdom is Animalia. Matlab ki ye animals hai. This is not under the plants, right? Phylum is Chordata. Matlab ki notochord is present. Right, we are coming down to the more specific ones. Class is Mammalia. Mammalia जब हमने specify कर दिया तो इसमें से birds, fishes and reptiles, amphibians ये सब eliminate हो गए. We are not talking about them. We are talking about the mammals only. So mammals के आगे भी carnivora. Here herbivores get eliminated, right? Only the carnivores. Then the family is Felidae, which is a cat family. Then genus is Panthera and species is Panthera leo, right? So when we come to the specific Leo defines that, okay, we are talking about the lions here, right? So इसमें भी अगर आप देखें नाम कैसे लिखा हुआ है, Panthera का P is always capital, rest is all in the lowercase, and Leo is always in the lowercase. So Panthera is the genus and Leo is the species. So that is how we categorize and come down to the specific of an organism ki okay, this is the organism we are talking about. Let's take another example of Homo sapiens. So humans का example है, इसमें kingdom is Animalia, as we discussed earlier. The phylum is Chordata, class Mammalia, right? उसमें Mammalia था and order is primate. So primate के अंदर क्या होता है, all the monkeys, the apes, the chimpanzees, they fall under this order. Family Hominidae, genus is Homo and species is Sapiens, right? So we have come down to the Homo sapien. कैसे? क्योंकि we have started with the general characteristic, that is the Animalia, right? अगर इससे भी ऊपर आप बात करेंगे तो यूकैरियोटा यहाँ पर भी लिखा जा सकता है. So it is a very general characteristic, and coming down to Homo sapien means very very specific. That means we are talking about the humans. Next we come to the 5 kingdom classification. So depending on that, उन्होंने क्या किया, all the organisms को 5 kingdoms में divide कर दिया. If you remember the previous slide, we have talked about the kingdom Animalia. So that means there are more kingdoms now, right? So these 5 kingdoms are those in which all the organisms, they fit and they find their spaces. अब उनको कैसे किया गया? डिपेंडिंग ऑन दी कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स दे शो. So let's just have a look at this, the overview of 5 kingdoms. First of all, the Monera. Monera के अंदर जो organisms हैं, they are the prokaryotic. That means primitive type of nucleus is present here. Unicellular है, no membrane bound cell organelles are present here. ठीक है, single cell है जो perform करता है सारे functions. So examples are cyanobacteria and bacteria. They fall under this category. Mode of nutrition इनका क्या है? Autotrophic है. Or in those cases where photosynthesis is not possible, then they switch to the heterotrophic mode of nutrition, right? Now the next is the Protista. They are the eukaryotic organism. Now remember, the previous one was prokaryotic. They are more primitive. Now Protista is the eukaryotic, which are little advanced, right? We see a step up in the evolution here. Now they're mostly unicellular, but some are multicellular. So here the multicellular level of organization started to seen, right? Examples आ रहे हैं इसमें amoeba, paramecium and so on. Mode of nutrition यहाँ पर भी autotrophic है, but a few they have the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Kingdom 3 is fungi. They are eukaryotic organisms again. Now mostly multicellular. अब first वाले में they were unicellular. Second में mostly were unicellular, but a few were multicellular. Of level 3, the kingdom 3 fungi, they have started showing the multicellular level of organization. That means more advanced animals are seen. The most advanced organisms are seen here. Inka cell wall is made up of chitin, and saprophytic mode of nutrition hai yahan pe, where they feed on the dead and decaying matter, right? So examples are yeast, mushroom and so on. Next we come to the kingdom Plantae. Eukaryotic है, multicellular है, autotrophic, as we all know कि plants undergo photosynthesis. They have autotrophic mode of nutrition. Cell wall is made up of cellulose. जैसे कि example trees, shrubs, grass and so on, right? Last one is the Animalia. They are eukaryotic, multicellular, heterotrophic mode of nutrition, because we know that animals do not undergo photosynthesis. They cannot produce their own food, right? So that is why they are heterotrophic mode of nutrition is seen here. No cell wall is seen. Highly specialized body system. कि उसका क्या मतलब है कि like we have various body or the organ systems inside our body. The various organs, they perform the specific functions, and how this is how the whole organism work, right? So highly specialized body systems are seen here in animals. Examples are human, dog, insects, fishes, etc., right? So these are the various 5 kingdoms depending on which the classification is done, right? Now if we want to study more about the diversity, how do we get to study about it, right? तो अगर हमें प्लांट्स के बारे में पता लगाना है, देन वी हैव द हर्बेरियम्स. हर्बेरियम्स क्या होते हैं? दे आर द प्रिजर्व्ड प्लांट स्पीशीज. मतलब कि जैसे कोई प्लांट है, उसको डिहाइड्रेट करके मॉइस्चर रिलीज करके उसको प्रिजर्व किया जाता है बिटवीन द पेजेस, राइट? सो दैट इट्स कैरेक्टरिस्टिक, its appearance and further can be read much later, even if it is not existing, right? So herbarium are those in which the preserved plant species are seen, right? They can be studied. They are demoistured and then they are preserved so that they can be studied easily. On the counterpart, the botanical gardens, we know, we might have visited also. उसमें क्या होता है? पौधे लगे होते हैं. They are the living plants, right? So abundant variety of plants, they are grown so that they can be studied and they can be enjoyed otherwise also. Also, if we come to the animals, अब animals के अंदर museums हैं जिसके अंदर preserved animal species, as we can see it in the picture here, कि डायनासोर के fossil remains जो भी मिले थे, उसको लिया and they took each and every bones of that and then try to fix it and bring it up into the same manner कि we get the idea कि ऐसा ऑर्गेनिज्म था, ये इतना बड़ा था, it was a giant creature, the bone was so big, the teeth were so sharp, and so on, right? So museum के अंदर preserved animal species होते, whereas in zoological park, हमें पता है, हमने बचपन से देखे हैं zoos के अंदर क्या होता है? The animal are preserved in their natural habitat so that they can be seen and they can be studied also. Now, now threat to diversity. अब diversity को कोई threat है? Definitely yes. We have seen over the period of time the diversity is under threat. Number one, the destruction of the habitat. Up suppose there is a forest and there is a deforestation, right? So deforestation hone se the number of plants that get destroyed is enormous, and obviously these plants, the huge trees, they are the homes to many animals and birds as well. So जब वो पेड़ कटे, जब वो forest कटा, तो वहां से जितने animals and birds हैं उनका home भी destroy हुआ. So destruction of their habitat result in destruction of the species ultimately. अब उनके पास जगह नहीं है. Those animals, those birds, they don't find any place to live, and when they are out of their homes and exposed, then they are under the threat and they do not survive in most of the time. So that is how it is under the threat. The diversity of that particular region that we have talking in the example, it is under threat. Pollution, air, water, soil, of all these things, it is definitely one of the major cause for the diversity which is under threat. So pollution से क्या होता है? So some of the things, so with this pollution, what happens? The adverse effects of these chemicals, which is there on the plants as well as the animal, it results in the destruction of the species that live there. Overexploitation of the resources. अब overexploitation means कि जैसे पेड़ काटे किस चीज के लिए? टिम्बर के लिए, ठीक है, और फिर वो काटते गए. So clearing of the forest for these resources, for the timber resources, जिसकी वजह से उनका habitat destroy हुआ and the species became under threat. Climatic changes, we all are very well aware about the global warming now, that how is it affecting the glaciers, which is the habitat of certain polar bears and penguins and seals and others, whose habitat is being destroyed by these climatic changes. Now about the invasion species. Invasion species क्या होती हैं? Suppose there are two forests, forest A and forest B, right? Forest A has, let's take 10 species of animals surviving, and they are getting enough resources and food for their survival, right? This forest B has, say, about 15 species, which is there, which is enough for their survival. But what happens when their habitat get destroyed, right? The forest B gets destroyed due to the overexploitation or destruction or deforestation. Then these animals, they tend to move to the other area which is nearby. So forest A, which was a home to close to 10 species and was sufficiently feeding them and surviving them happily, now it is the home for, like, say, about 25 species. So the resources are limited in this area. They are not full to be fed by the 25 species. So then there is an survival of the fittest kind of a situation, and there is a competition. So due to this invasion of species, these species which are surviving here locally, they are getting affected and they are getting destroyed. So this also becomes a threat to the diversity. So in the end, what do we want to take away from this chapter is the biodiversity is vital for the planet, and understanding diversity help us to protect life forms, right? How do we do it? We can do it in the sustainable manner. Protecting protected areas like national park and the sanctuaries should be encouraged, and the poaching should be discouraged to a large extent. Community awareness and participation. should always be there, because educating others can always help us to save the environment in a larger scale. And saving environment is eventually saving ourselves, right? So with this, we come to the end of this chapter. I hope you have understood every part of it. And in case you want to join our batches, please reach out to us and let us know through the comment section. So we'll see you in the next class. Thank you.